Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Bullseye. My name is Larry Frank, and I'm live with my co-host. I'm so fired up to be here tonight. Welcome, Bradley Lewis Walker. How are you today, buddy?
Well, Larry, I think I'm doing great. Still on cloud nine from last night, so I got to give some props to Tampa Bay Lightning for winning the Stanley Cup. So,
well, I wouldn't start the show, and you know I wouldn't start the show tonight without giving props to our unbelievable, amazing, whatever word you want to describe. So for those of you fans that end up missing it yesterday evening, Bradley and I wouldn't let at least going by one more moment to show you the great call of our good buddy, Dave Mishkin. Let's go ahead and do it. Whoops, it went down. Hold on one sec, guys. Technical producer Larry Frank's having issues there, so stay with me a minute. There we go. I got it back. Here we go. Well, maybe not, Bradley. Are you still? There we go. Computer's moving. Decided anytime I do media stuff, it seems like it moves a little slower. So I apologize about that. But anyway, for those of you folks out there, the Tampa Bay Lightning did win yesterday. We want to go ahead and congratulate them. In an unbelievable fashion, they won last night. So to the Tampa Bay Lightning, I know, Bradley, you've been a Tampa Bay Lightning fan for a long time. I mean, before we get into USF and everything that's going on, tell the fans, last time it was 2003. This is actually the first championship that Tampa Bay has won since 2003. How did it feel?
Great, Larry. I watched the game. I had my watch party on my podcast last night on the Sunshine State Sports Jabber. It was great. I mean, the way they won 2-0. Got off to an early 1-0 lead on Braden Point's power play goal, and then the Coleman scoring. Pat Maroon deflecting the puck, keeping it in the zone, and everyone. Vasilevsky was there. I mean, it was a team effort all the way through, and first time since 2004 that they've won a Stanley Cup, and they are the first North American team to win a championship during the COVID-19. So congratulations to Tampa Bay Lightning on that as well. What a season, and it's looking up for Tampa Bay sports with the Lightning and the Rays in the playoffs and the Rowdies in the playoffs, and maybe, just maybe, that flag behind you there, they'll be on Championship Sunday too. So let's hope that we can get maybe 3 or 4 championships in the Tampa Bay area this year.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And we're going to talk about that, but I'm trying to get a couple things up here. I guess with me thinking that I'm updated on technology, I froze up the computer here. So, so bear with me 1 minute because I may kick out and come back in 1 second. So hang on, all right? All right, you right there, Bradley?
I'm here. Yep.
All right. Well, good to go. So there we are. Hopefully we got our streaming back and everything. There we go. So we talked about the Tampa Bay Lightning, and hopefully we weren't gone that long while I did that. But let's talk about another team real quickly. We want to congratulate the Tampa Bay Rays before we get into our USF talk. The Tampa Bay Rays today, unbelievable job. 1-1 versus the Toronto Blue Jays, 3 nothing. Manuel Margot, of all people, hits a 2-run home. Blake Snell looked like he's back into Cy Young form. We were excited about last night, but, I said I want the trifecta this year, and we got to be happy with the way the second part of this trifecta is starting to look.
Yeah, Larry, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really think there's only one team out there that I think might stop the Rays, and that's the Dodgers. I don't think there's anyone in the American League, and if somehow, some way the Dodgers get knocked down in the National League, I think the Rays would be the foregone favorite to win the World Series this year.
Yeah, I honestly agree with you there. Now, we're going to have in a little bit, we're going to have our good buddy Brent Young joining us. For those of you who do not know who Brent Young is actually, as I try to work this out, so bear with me, guys, as I learn this computer a little bit. There we go, and there we go. Sorry about that, Bradley. It froze in one of our programs here. So I'm trying to get that Dave Michigan one. He was so excited, Dave Michigan, he froze up the whole system, But anyway, so what do you think of my intro video today, buddy?
That was cool. That's very cool, and I'm hoping that we can have the crowd back at Raymond James Stadium like that soon, because I'll tell you, again, being that I was at a game with no fans, but it's so exciting when there's a lot of USF fans there, and it makes the stadium much better to have the fans in the stands, especially for college football.
And both Bradley and I want to welcome our newest sponsor to tonight's show. Actually the first official bullseye, I could say, sponsor is Rent-A-King. Rent-A-King, 609 West Brandon Boulevard in Brandon, Florida. Don't forget to join them. They're having a freaky fall sale. Unbelievable. Beginning this Thursday, October 1st, through Saturday, October 3rd, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. They have freaky deals, free snacks, free refreshment, free prizes, and you can enter to win. Now listen to this. You like USF football? What about watching USF football on a new 65-inch 4K smart TV? You can't beat it. Rent-A-King. Great deals, great rentals. Go to Rent-A-King and let them know that Bradley and Larry from Bullseye sent you over there. So, Bradley, we had a week off. After a 52-0, we can call it an ass whooping. I guess that's, a good way to describe it. A good thing happened. I mean, unfortunately, and I don't know if you heard the latest on this. I know you get some of this info before me. 7 of 54 personnel athletes contracted the COVID. It was like 38 players that weren't participating out of the 115 players and everything. Only 78, I believe they said, were participating. Any late word, according to Jeff Scott, I know he said he's very confident that Saturday's game versus Cincinnati will go on as scheduled. What are you hearing?
Larry, I haven't heard anything. I actually looked it up before I got on here, and Lou Fickell, who's the head coach of the Bearcats, said that he plans on having a game on Saturday. So it looks, again, we didn't know. I mean, last week we sat here and talked about it, and I think within 24 to 48 hours after our show here, they announced that there was going to be no football game against FAU. So, I mean, again, this is, it happened in the NFL. This is going to be something that we're going to have to, watch. Hopefully they can get the kids, quarantined so it doesn't affect the entire team where games can be canceled or postponed. But yeah, we are coming off an ass whipping by the Fighting Irish. We're playing a team, Larry, and I can give you some good bits from last year because I was at the game last year against Cincinnati, and it was a Thursday night game. Pat McAfee and Matt Hasselbeck and the ESPN crew were there. I saw Pat McAfee as I was going in through the media area in Deck D at Raymond James Stadium, and that game really pissed me off because I'll be honest with you that the Bulls had that game won. In the last seconds, Cincinnati drove down, got a field goal, and won by a field goal. And that was one of those games that if I could do it, I would have, thrown an object through a window, but that's a different story. I don't get that angry. But hypothetically, how mad and upset I was that that's a game that we should have won a year ago, and it was upsetting that we didn't win that football game.
And wasn't that, if I'm correct now, I get some of the years confused, but if I remember the score last year, wasn't it 20-17 ball game?
Correct.
We lost by 3, I believe.
No, we lost by 3. They won on a game.
Right. Yep. Okay. Now, I want to ask you a couple questions, Bradley. First thing is, it came out in the news that Eddie McDoom entered the transfer portal. He was the one that opted out of the 2020 season due to the COVID-19, virus. I mean, in 10 games, I think he had last year 13 receptions, 174 yards. Big deal or no? Not a big deal for the USF.
Larry, I'm not telling people that opting out this season is gonna. But for college football players, it's hard to opt out because if you opt out now, you leave. Even if you were going to get drafted, it leaves a lot for the NFL guys, scouts that are coming out to watch you. I don't think it's really going to make a big deal because as me and you have said last week on this show, there's no starting quarterback. So we don't have a passing game yet until we get a quarterback. So, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think he opted out this year so that he wasn't even playing in the first 2 games anyway. So, hopefully, I wish the kid the best of luck. I don't ever want to wish anyone bad luck. But, if he opted out and he wants to transfer, go for it. Maybe next season he'll land, somewhere where he can be the guy.
So, speaking about somebody who didn't transfer that came to us and committed to us, it looks like this guy is going to be back in action come this Saturday in Cade Fortin. What do you hear? And this is what my question is. We already have a a quarterback carousel that's going on that is unbelievable right now. So what is what I'm trying to ask you is, due to the fact that you had Marsh, you had McLeod, you had Johnson, all getting snaps, taking their chances at quarterback, could it be because this guy right here could be the main guy?
It could be, Larry. I know Coach Scott talked about Cade. After the first game against the Citadel, he was talking that there was a quarterback waiting in the wings. I didn't quite catch the quarterback's name. Obviously, it is Cade 14. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But yeah, he actually, maybe that's the thing. Maybe this is the guy that they want, and they were just holding keeping the position warm, as they say, until he was ready to go. We'll have to see. But, Larry, to be honest with you, if we play on Saturday against the Bearcats, we need to establish a quarterback after this game. We can't have this, 3-4 quarterbacks a game going in and out. That you can't have an offense like that. And our running game is too good to not have a quarterback back there to move us down the field offensively through the pass game.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. But, this guy, Cade Fortin, very big year. He didn't play his senior year. A lot of people remember that in high school. He had a leg injury, but he was amazing during his junior year. And he, in 2 games at UNC, he was, I believe it was 32 of 65, 388 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had 76 yards rushing and a rushing touchdowns. Now he has 3 years left of eligibility. So if you're going to bring a guy in and you want to gel him in, and this was one of Jeff Scott's guys. This is Jeff Scott's recruit. Wouldn't it be the time right now to put this guy in, make the decision? This is my quarterback. This is the guy I chose. Let the team get comfortable, and you have 3 years to work with this kid.
Absolutely. It's not going to hurt anything. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. But, yeah, that would be the only – yeah, Larry, that's exactly what I would be doing, the same thing. If this is Scott's recruit, then, yeah, you start him because all the guys that you have on that bench are all from Charlie Strong's regime. So, yeah, go for it. Why not? Put him out there. You know what? We might end up, beating Cincinnati because they're not ready for him. Again, too, if he didn't play in his senior year, probably in a lot of film on him. That might be.
And that was one of my points.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Now, the one thing about the Bearcats is if you look at them and the way they play the game, the Bearcats have given up a lot of rushing yards in their first two games. They're averaging giving up over 200 yards. And this is the first game versus a no-name team named Austin P. And, of course, they did play Army, who was ranked last week. And, they were happy only. And, if you read the Cincinnati Bearcats papers and stuff and the Journal, they were happy giving up close to only, they say, 200 yards rushing versus Army, because Army is one of those, three-back offenses that could be real tricky. But this is an opportunity where maybe Johnny Ford can get started. He had a week off. His legs should be strong after that week off, as long as he's not one of the players who may be sidelined. That we don't know yet. But this could be a good opportunity. And when I look at the Cincinnati game versus Army, the only reason that they were allowed to get into that game and win was because of a lot of silly mistakes and penalties, mostly penalties by a Black Knights team that could have easily competed in that game.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a good thing that they have given up 200 yards rushing, because now Ford and Joyner, again, hopefully they're not one of the 7 that tested positive and are being held out. But I think that's good for us, because that's been. I wrote an article earlier today previewing this football game for iRock Media. It should be up in the next couple of days. But I mentioned in that article that one of the bright points for us is the running game. And, if we can get a team that gives up a lot of rushing yards, we have a shot. And I would love to beat them. Again, like I said, it really pissed me off a year ago with us losing to Cincinnati. So I'm happy that if we can get some revenge, that would be great.
And last week, the Army team that played Cincinnati, they held Cincinnati. Their defense, Army's defense, held them to only 68 yards rushing. I mean, if our defense can hold this team, we're going to then have to count on our passing defense to step it up and our front line to step it up. I mean, I hate to use Notre Dame as an example because they were such a better team than us, and I don't think it's really fair to analyze us on the one game we were so overmatched in. But, if we can run the ball and hold their team not to run the ball like Army did, there's a shot we can compete like we did last year in this game.
Yeah, I agree, Larry. Absolutely. Yeah, we get – well, the other thing, too, the first two games that, against Citadel and against Notre Dame, we need to get some sacks. We got to get some sacks. I mean, we had a few against the Citadel. We need to get some sacks. That to take the pressure. If we can hold the running game down and then we can get some sacks, it's going to make a long game for them. And we have a shot. Again, as I was told earlier in the season, this was one of the 3 teams that was favored to win the conference. Of course, you have them, Memphis, and, of course, the dreaded UCF Knights. But, I mean, it was one of those things where they, this is one of those teams, and Lou Fickle's a hell of a coach. So it would be great to beat them and get some revenge from last year.
And, here's a team that's 2-0, the Cincinnati Bearcats. They're ranked number 15 in the nation. So once again, it's another big stage and big opportunity for this young team under a very new coach in Jeff Scott to actually be in the spotlight again.
Yep, and it's a 2:30 kickoff, so it's not one of those early noon games or late game. It's a mid-afternoon football game. It should be, again, this is another, we talked 2 weeks ago about them shining against Notre Dame. Unfortunately, we just were overmatched right from the get-go, but I think we have a shot at hanging in on this game and kind of showing who we are. I think we have to find an identity this week. I really think that's where we need to – got to find an identity of where this football team is this week, because you can't keep going on and on and on because, again, looming in the distance, I know that's 2 months away, but, UCF, that game is looming 2 months away, and I think we got to be better by the time that game comes around to have any chance of beating them on Black Friday.
Yeah, and you talked a second ago. I'm moving you around here a minute, so bear with me. There we go. I want to move a couple of things. Let's see. You should come right back. There we go. A lot better. Good. I'm on the USF side. No, I'm just kidding. But you talked about getting pressure, and you couldn't have been more correct. Here's, first of all, a couple of things in this game. You have a quarterback in Desmond Ridder who so far on the year is 31 of 54, 454 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. A lot of those, you would say, well, they played Austin Peay. But a lot of those statistics were actually brought upon in the Army game where he went 18 of 33, 258 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception. So my question to you is this. Here is a Cincinnati team that the last 3 quarters of that game, they completely shut down the Army offense. They did not allow a score at all, not even a field goal after the first quarter. How important in this game is it for 2 things? For USF to come in, establish the run, and also to take a quick early lead?
Yeah, that's the pivotal thing too. I think in any sport, if you can get out, to a lead early on. I hate to go back and say this, but the Lightning scoring the first goal last night was huge. I think getting off to a good start, I think what they need to do, Larry, is our first possession, whether we go down and get a touchdown or a field goal, we need to get points on our possessions. We cannot have empty possessions and punting the ball 2 or 3 times. We've got to go down and score points. And if we can do that early and force Cincinnati into some pressure, we have a shot at beating them.
Yeah, and, that's the key right there. Forcing some pressure. They got one guy on that team, on that defense, that is all over the place. And we'll ask Brent about him when he comes on. This Joggle White, 20 tackles already in 2 games. I believe last week he had 15 tackles versus Army. So this is a defense that likes to swarm to the ball. The question, and I agree with it, is I don't think you can be successful in this game if you're USF. So hear me out. You can be successful, but you can't be successful if you do not establish who that quarterback is quickly in this game. And we've said this before on both the shows we've done previously, is there is no rhythm, there is no consistency, there is no music here because nobody knows who the quarterback is. And some people will say, well, come on, Larry, it's a quarterback. No, it's a lot more important. You need to know who the leader of your offense is. And the more you play around with it, the more confused, the more your timing's off, the more you don't run the correct routes. So there's a lot of different things. Even the calling of the play at the line of scrimmage and the way you call hike and everything is off if you don't use the same exact quarterback. And like you said earlier in the program, it's already, you will say and I will say game 3, but technically it's really game 4 because we had one postponed and we still do not have an identified starting quarterback on this team. Now, as you said earlier, if it was Cade was in waiting and they were waiting for Cade to come back from whatever he had, well, it might make a little sense. But if it is Cade, then you got to use him this weekend, and you got to use him more often than few.
Yeah, Larry, I guess, yeah, definitely. This is where I believe not having a spring game really hurt USF or any college team for that matter, because I went to the spring game last year, Charlie Strong's last year, and it was nice to see all 3 quarterbacks that were on the roster with Wake Barnett, who got hurt. Jordan McLeod came in, and I think they had another quarterback that ended up transferring. But, what it was nice because all 3 of them got into the game at some point to show and how they ran the offense. And now this year with no spring game and no preparation, now you're throwing all your quarterbacks out there, and I don't think any of them really have, proved to Coach Scott that they're the number 1. And maybe Cade is that guy. And if he is that guy, then he needs to start right away. You don't need to see Jordan McLeod. You don't need to see any of the other guys. You need to see him right off the bat. That way, and let him stay in the game. Don't take him out after 2 series or 3 series let him stay in the game and establish a passing, establish a captain. Your quarterback is your captain of your offense. They gotta find something because, again, moving forward, it's not good that we don't have a starting quarterback yet of who we know and who's going to be back there being our signal caller, because the passing game has to start developing too. You got to start getting these guys, wide receivers in. The running, everyone knows we can run the ball, and if they can stack the box and shut the run game down, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with you. As we are about to bring Brent Young on. So we're going to do that right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to bring on our Bullseye podcast for you tonight. My good buddy out of Cincinnati, contributed to the Cincinnati, the Bearcat Journal. I know he does some broadcasting. I mean, there's not much this guy doesn't do when it comes to the Bearcat. Has his own Bearcat Bounce Back podcast as well. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Brent Young. Brent, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing fantastic, doing great. It's a Tuesday and it's a lot of sports action. So to be honest with you, I can't really complain too much.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're all very, very happy down here, Brent, as we went ahead last night and our Tampa Bay Lightning, won the Stanley Cup. So we're a little, when I say we're hungover, I'm not talking about alcohol, but, right. Getting to watch this team and just doing well. But we want to thank, I know Bradley and I want to thank you very, very much for coming on this evening. It's a great pleasure to have you. And hopefully we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming game for Cincinnati Bearcats versus University of South Florida.
Yeah, and obviously if you got celebrated, had to do it safely, obviously. There's a lot of craziness going on as South Florida is well aware of this past couple weeks. But, big congratulations to you guys. It's been a while since – I live in Indianapolis, so I take that back. I did experience a Super Bowl victory, kind of like same as your guys' Buccaneers, but still it's been quite a while since I've been able to taste the sweet success of a championship. So hats off to you guys, and I hope you really did have a lot of fun. But I'm excited for this weekend. Should be a good game. I'm excited to see what you guys bring to the table. Obviously coming off a week, and then the week before that, kind of a little bit of a downer at Notre Dame, but that's a tough place to play no matter with no fans or with fans. So obviously you're going to be a lot of storylines heading into Saturday.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. First of all, USF, like you just mentioned, obviously had some unexpected time off due to the coronavirus. But everything I'm hearing, everything Bradley Lewis Walker is hearing, and I don't know what you're hearing up that way, but is that this game is scheduled to go on as planned. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, in Luke Fickell's weekly presser, he mentioned that he hasn't gotten any word as far as no game this weekend or anything of that sort. So his viewpoint is if he hasn't received any word at all, then kind of a no news is good news type thing when it comes to this situation. So I'm hearing, all systems are go. They said they had, a typical Tuesday that they would normally have during a game week. So from my eyes and from everything I've heard, it seems like it's good to go. I don't know. I haven't heard the official ruling yet. I haven't seen anything in your guys' Twitter or from your athletic department that has exactly said that we are full go. But from what I can gather, it seems like it's going to go.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. It's tough enough to prepare for one quarterback. Now right. You got the Cincinnati Bearcats, who would have originally had to prepare for three quarterbacks in McLeod right. and Marsh, and then they got Johnson. But now Cade Fortin, the transfer from University of North Carolina, is in the picture as well. How the heck does a defense prepare for this game when they don't know who the hell is going to be behind the center?
You gotta pick the similarities and kind of really force those in and make sure you stop those, and then you got to be aware that when the quarterback changes do come, you've got to know what the strengths are of each player that comes in. So, I think that's kind of the benefit of what Marcus Freeman, a highly sought after defensive coordinator that the Bearcats have. He is all over it. He's a big game schemer. He loves to find out different ways to attack, the inefficiencies of opposing offenses. So I think he's going to really look at it as a challenge, and he loves challenges. So it's going to be one of those situations where, as you mentioned, you don't face teams that really, really focus on getting numerous quarterbacks onto the field with different game plans for those quarterbacks. So yes, it's a challenge. It's going to be a big challenge, but in the end, it's about just doing what your assignments are, focusing on the game plan, and really just trying to take away what South Florida is trying to do with each quarterback.
Now, talking about quarterbacks, Cincinnati has a pretty decent quarterback themselves who, when I look at that game versus Army last week, the rushing game for Cincinnati really disappeared after week one, having such a great week. And give some credit to Army where credit is due. But I thought Ritter did very well. I mean, I know 6 of his last 12 games, he has at least 2 touchdown passes or more. I mean, he has decent stats on the year. I mean, what do the people in the Cincinnati area think of this young guy?
So Desmond Ritter is just a winner. I think it's his through 2 years as a starter, and then obviously 2 games into this season, he's won 24 games. He just goes out and he puts out a winning product. Last year at your guys' place at Raymond James, it was blatantly obvious that he was very hobbled, very injured in that game, but still he figured out a way to navigate that final drive to get the game-winning field goal. It's kind of one of those where he's going to constantly do what he can to make sure that the team comes out with a win. Last week he missed a couple receivers early on some drives. The score could have really been a lot higher than what they had, and the stats could have been a lot more gaudy than what they put up. But in the end, he's a winner. He's a quarterback that the coaching staff has a lot of confidence in. He's got an offensive line in front of him that's as strong as they've been pass protecting wise since Luke Fickell took over as head coach. It's one of those guys where he's a junior, redshirt junior, but he's 2-year starter, just a veteran. He's going to go out there. He's going to make the right decisions. And when he starts to get his passes clicking and really starts to complete passes at a high clip, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, and he's really up there for one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country.
Now, talk about the running game, because we hit on that a little bit now, but I want to talk about it on the opposite side of the ball. I mean, You're playing a USF team that is known to run the football. I don't think that's a surprise. But the one thing, and some people were happy only giving up 182 yards rushing to Army because they're so powerful. That's almost like a win in itself. But even versus Austin Peay, I noticed as good as this defense been at certain moments, they have not been the best versus the rush. How important is it to stop this rushing attack of USF?
Oh, it's very important. And, the biggest question mark for the defense heading in to this season was at the linebacker position. You lose Brent Young and you lose Brian Wright, 2 just, all conference performers off of that team. And you got to replace them with some players that kind of really need to prove themselves. Luckily, they're veterans in Darian Beavers and Joel DeBlanco. But then you have Jarrell White, who had 15 tackles last week against Army, which was a career high for him. But then that defensive line, it's spectacular. You mentioned about the rushing stats they gave up against Austin Peay week 1. A lot of those came in the fourth quarter. One of them was like a 67-yard touchdown run against our third and fourth stringers. So when Austin Peay had their starters still on the field. So it's kind of a little skewed in that direction. As you mentioned, 182 last week against Army. They averaged 389 coming into that game. So you're holding them 200 yards underneath theirs. I believe they had like 20 plays where they gained 2 or less yards. It's stopping the run is really special for the front 4 that they have, or front 3 if they run the 3-3-5, because they really dedicate themselves to being able to control that. But the linebackers, they need to continue and step up a little bit more aggressive on the run, coming through from that second level. And if they're able to do that, I don't see any way that there's going to be much offenses out there that'll be able to put up the rushing stats that they want, other than when it's garbage time, or other than when they're loading up to stop the pass, and then a 40-yard run that doesn't mean much happens.
Now, and you got to admit, one thing I give the Bearcats a lot of credit, because there would have been a lot of teams in this game early in the game Cincinnati falls behind on a defensive touchdown. On a mistake that happened where a lot of teams right then and there, because remember, Army's a ranked team. I think a lot of people forget the fact that Army's a damn good team. Like you said, explosive offense with that Russian attack. But a lot of teams could have folded. But, Ritter came right back out, grabbed the troops, and they come back down, and they end up taking the lead, where at that time, a lot of wind could have been taken out of those sails.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you give up that defensive touchdown right off the bat, and that kind of plays into exactly what Army wants to do. They want to be able to control the game with a lead and kind of just run the ball until that clock just wears all the way out. But that just speaks to the leadership that the Bearcats have, top to bottom, and kind of just at the quarterback position where Dez came off, the defense kind of told him, "Hey, we've got you. No worries, we've got you." And they went out there, they did what they needed to do, and then in the end, it was just all about just making sure to get points any way possible. And when the defense is really stepping up like that, the offense feels like they have to really put up their side of the bargain, and it's just a team-built unity where they never get too down on themselves. They played from behind, they played with a big lead. Every which way you want to put it, they've been in all different situations of games where they don't really stress too much when they get down, and they kind of just really gather together and they go out and they try and come back.
And, it wasn't just the offense. That defense came on strong after that first quarter. I mean, they shut them out. I believe it was the rest of the game. I don't think Army scored at all, even a field goal. Then they were only 3 of 13 on third down conversions. I mean, it was just incredible. And I don't know who the heck this guy is, but I love the way I never can pronounce his first name. Is it Joggle White or however you pronounce it? Had 15 tackles in that game.
Yep.
Was all over the place. I think he has 20 tackles already in 2 games on the year.
Yeah, Jarrell White. He is the senior leader. When Luke Fickell took over, he tried to bring this whole hometown hero mentality to recruiting and to players that come into the program and things of that sort. And Jarrell is right from Cincinnati, LaSalle High School, and he kind of was the trailblazer for that hometown hero movement. And he's always been a little undersized, 5'8" to 5'10", under 6 foot pretty much. But you ask him, he'll tell you he's 6 foot, maybe 6'1", but definitely undersized, kind of underappreciated at times. But he's going to go out and he's going to lay it all on the line. He's going to come through and really be all over the field, sideline to sideline. He's a big-time player for them. And when you have a defensive line in front of him like he has, you kind of can roam free and make the plays that you need to at the second level. So, Jarrell's really been a big beneficiary of the entire defense as a whole. And, you mentioned Army. Like you said, only 3 points on the offensive side since 2015. That's the first game that they have not scored a touchdown offensively. They scored that one defensive touchdown. But other than that, that's the first time since 2015. You look at a team that, went to Oklahoma and played them very well and, went to Michigan, took Michigan to overtime last year. So it's a really good team, especially running the football and getting into the end zone methodically. But the way that the defense was able to come up with big plays when they needed it and really stuff the run, I mean, it's a big tip of the cap to them. But now, they've yet to face a true offense that is balanced with the rushing attack and the passing attack because, of course, Austin P, FCS opponent, and then now a triple option team. So USF is going to be the first team that actually will be a somewhat traditional offense going up against.
And Bradley, jump in at any time. I know I got a big mouth and I don't know how to shut up sometimes, but let me ask you this. There's something about conference football that's different than any other type of football. You know that. I know that. I don't care who you play in your conference, how good they are or how bad they are. It's always usually a tough game in your conference to play. Talk about this being the first conference game for both teams, and what do you feel? And I know you mentioned it a little bit here and there, but what the key thing that Cincinnati has to do or USF have to do, either way you look at it, to win the ball game?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, obviously you mentioned in conference play. You look last year, Cincinnati comes away with a huge victory against Central Florida, And then a couple weeks later, they play at ECU in a game that they should just, dominate the Pirates.
Right.
And it's a back and forth contest. They're down by a couple scores in the fourth quarter and really need to make a big comeback to avoid the disaster loss. So, yeah, I mean, anything can happen. Yeah, you look at last year's game against South Florida, one where you guys clearly outplayed us. The entire game, you guys kind of were either nursing a lead or were in control of the game with time of possession and yardage and everything. You guys just could not kick a field goal to save your life. But aside from that, it was anything can happen in conference play. And I mean, you look at UCF lost at Tulsa last year. Like a lot of just different crazy things can happen. So I think some huge keys for Cincinnati is really just scoring, just getting the offense going, getting the passing game going, just getting everything clicking. Because they added a bunch of new players out in the wide receivers. They lost Josiah DeGuara at tight end, so they're implementing just new players at tight end, highly talented players, but still just need to take that next step. And then, of course, losing Michael Warren, who I'm sure you guys are very familiar with after his 4-touchdown game two years ago at Cincinnati. So, I think just like scoring, getting the offense really going. And then, of course, for South Florida, I think it's the same thing. I think you guys need to score the football. You guys need to really get I mean, 0 points up in South Bend. I haven't really dove too much into that game, but I think you guys got to be able to keep up a little bit with the scoring. And if at halftime you have a couple of turnovers and the score's looking at like 17-10 or 17-14, something along those lines, I think it's anyone's game in the final two.
Yeah, and earlier we mentioned about all the number of different quarterbacks. I think USF has more quarterbacks than defensive linemen in a game
Wow.
in some weeks. But there's one quarterback, Cade, I believe you pronounce it 14. He was a transfer, a very highly rated transfer out of UNC. He looked real good, but he came over to USF. But the issue with this is you mentioned about, well, they obviously have to watch film on these different quarterbacks, learn their tendencies. But how do you prepare for a quarterback where you have no film on?
Right. You got to dig deep. You got to figure something out. These coaches are so connected. I'm sure, they've got some sort of ACC connect, some sort of, North Carolina connect possibly, and just really reach deep and say, hey, what do we know about this guy? What can we find from high school film? What can we find at all? They have some sort of connection to at least get a gist of what they're going to do. And if you control every aspect except for one unknown at the quarterback position, you won't get hurt too much. If you know the tendencies of the wide receivers, you stick to your assignments. If unless he's going to come out there blazing like Lamar Jackson or have a cannon arm like Pat Mahomes had last night, then yeah, you can't really scheme against that at all. But if you kind of just know the generalities of his targets and the generalities of the offense as a whole, and really stick to the game plan, I think you can at least weather a storm in the first couple series when you adjust to what the new quarterback is going to do. And then aside from that, if you're able to make the right moves, then the next couple series is anyone's game.
Right. Now, you mentioned what the Bearcats have to do to win. If there's one key player on USF, whether it might be the quarterback carousel, if it's the running game, who is the key person that they have to stop for USF?
That the Bearcats have to stop? I would say.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would say your rushing attack. You look at last year, you really put it to us. I meant to ask because I haven't really dove too deep into you guys. Johnny Ford is their relation to brothers, right? I believe. Johnny Ford is really a big time player. I think if you really stop the rushing attack of South Florida, I mean, I see you guys have just about the same amount of rushing yards as your opponents on the year, and that's against adding in that Notre Dame game as well. That's going to be a really key factor is trying to slow down the rushing attack. So I think, yes, all the different quarterback carousels are going to be tough to defend, but you guys were able to kind of establish the line of scrimmage and really kind of take control of the game last year by running the football and then setting up the pass and getting the correct pass plays here and there and hitting a couple big plays as well. So I think if you guys establish the run and kind of don't make it one-dimensional where you have to force the throw, I think you can stay right there with it. So I think stopping the run for Cincinnati is going to be key first and foremost, because I listened to your guys' press conference today. You guys are confident about the speed that you own at the specialty position. So I think really just stopping the run game kind of makes you one dimensional, where you then have to really dedicate a lot of love to that speed. And these defensive backs that Cincinnati have, I put them up there with anyone in the country. And if you make it one dimensional and these DBs know you're going to have to throw the football, it only, feeds into them a little bit more, especially with that knowing a little bit of bulletin board material that the specialists at South Florida kind of think that they might have a little bit of a speed advantage.
Yeah, and before we finish up with you here, Brent, I'm going to let Bradley jump in because, like I said, I've been doing a lot of the talking. Bradley, what questions? I know there's stuff going on in your head. You're saying, okay, he's going to ask this, is he not going to? What questions do you have for Brent? And no one's better when it comes to the Bearcats here, man.
Well, I have to ask, what is the confidence level for Coach Fickell through the first 2 weeks for you guys?
Leading into the season, he didn't hold back at all when he was mentioning the amount of talent that he has on this team. He said it's his most talented team. He expects championships from this team. And through 2 weeks, I would say he is blindly optimistic still, but he knows that they've got a ways to go. Probably a little bit more of a ways to go than originally thought. At wide receiver, you're talking about Alec Pierce, who was, the leading receiver last year. He's been out with an injury for the first 2 weeks. He'll be out against you guys as well. And then the bye week next week. So hopefully he's coming back after that. So after Alec Pierce at the wide receiver position, completely new faces other than the Ja'Shawn Jackson. So, it's kind of just really getting to know that team. I think he has a lot of confidence in the defense. And anyone should. They return 9 starters, and on top of that, it's like a high level amount of starters as well. The rotation on the defensive line is spectacular, but still, you lose a Michael Warren, you have question marks as far as the wide receiver position and tight end, and then offensive line has a couple of new players plugged in. I think they're still trying to find that click, still trying to find that mojo that they can get things going. So I think that Coach Fickell has a lot of confidence still in the team, because he sees what they can do in practice. He sees what the potential truly is. And, Michael Young Jr. transferred from Notre Dame he transferred in this year. He's a junior year, first year in a Bearcats uniform. And he came out and he said today, there is no ceiling for this team. Not to quote Michael Jordan, but the ceiling is the roof type thing. But he said there was no ceiling with this team. He said that the goal is a conference championship. So win the conference championship, whatever after that happens, and that starts on Saturday, and it's going to be a tough task because Coach Fickell knows about South Florida. He knows about the dominating, I believe it was like 33-3 win that you guys had his first season as head coach. Knows how close the last 2 games have been. He knows it's going to be a fight, and he is confident. I would say very confident, but there's still a lot of things they want to work out.
I was just going to mention that. I mean, is this the year that he thinks he can finally get over the hump and beat Memphis? Because that's been the team that's been the kind of the nail in you guys' side over the last 2 years. Right. So I mean, is this the year that they can finally get over that hump and beat the Tigers?
Yeah. So Memphis obviously was the last team in conference that Fickell played, and he played them twice last year. Mm-hmm. And however bad it might be, it was back-to-back weeks at Memphis. So you're looking at 2 kind of home games for the Tigers, and 2 games where Cincinnati was in that game the whole entire time. One was with backup quarterback Ben Bryant. The other one was in the AAC championship game where that one came right down to the wire as well. I think Memphis, new head coach, obviously, they've got a lot of pieces though that are really good. They haven't played for 2 weeks because they decided to hop on a party bus after the win against Arkansas State and get a little COVID going throughout the team. But aside from that, it's a it's a really talented team. They've got one of the best wide receivers in a conference full of great wide receivers. Obviously, one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in Brady White. It's going to be one of those teams that is going to be there at the end. A lot of national people, obviously, they're ranked in the top 25 AP, but a lot of national people think they're even better than that. Top 15 talent on Memphis. So yeah, I mean the hump is going to be Memphis and it's going to be Central Florida. If they get over both of those, then I mean you're talking about a really special year.
And Brent, one last question you got for me: which team do you guys fear the most in the conference? Is it Memphis? Is it UCF? Which is the team that Coach Fickell kind of when the calendar came back out after the COVID?
Right.
Which team do you think that he struggled on the calendar thinking we have to beat them this year? We have to get over that hump. Is it the Tigers? Is it the Knights? Who is it that you guys struggled on the calendar as the team to beat this year?
So each season, both Luke Fickell and Marcus Freeman, they select one game that they focus a little extra on during the off season. 2 years ago, it was Navy. Navy beat Cincinnati 42-32 and ran for 600 yards, completely dog walked the Bearcats up and down the field for 4 quarters. And then that next year, Cincinnati beat Navy 42-0, and Navy couldn't get anything going. Then last year, the year before against Central Florida, if you remember, it was a game at Central Florida at the Bounce House 2 years ago in 2018. College Game Day was there. It was a highly publicized game. Bearcats end up dropping that one, and it wasn't really close. So they kind of focused on Central Florida, and then last year it was a Friday game. It was packed house at Nippert. Ahmad Sauce Gardner got his nickname Sauce in that game with a pick six. It was just a huge, momentum changing, program changing win for the Bearcats. Their first win over a ranked opponent since 2009 when Brian Kelly was as head coach. So that was a huge win. And then I think that this season they haven't made it public or anything, but I think Memphis is probably the game they circled to really focus on the game plan, take them down. They play them on Halloween night, Saturday. It's going to be an awesome atmosphere. It would probably be like a college game day type setting, an opportunity to bring in college game day for that game. Obviously, no fans, question mark on that, but that's probably a huge game. But I think the main game that really they want to win, because I think that they can beat Memphis. I think they think in their mind at home they can take down Memphis. They kind of were able to judge exactly what they do and know the personnel that they have. But I think the main one is going to be Central Florida. At Central Florida, has the possibility to be a top 10. Winner obviously has a leg up when it goes into the AAC championship game. I think that, yes, the Memphis game is going to be huge, but that Central Florida game has a lot riding on it. But if I was coaching, if you ask Coach Luke Fickell right now, what's the most important game, he's going to say South Florida on Saturday.
All right, before we let you run, Brent, one last question for you. Not that I'm a big guy on point spreads and everything, but Cincinnati is favored by 21.5 points in this game. Just a simple question. Do they beat the point spread, or is it going to be a closer game, do you think, in Cincinnati versus that?
All right, so I think that a lot of pride is on this Bearcat team. I think that they kind of felt like they could have done better against Army, especially offensively. I think the defense performed great.
Right.
South Florida, you're going to watch film of what you can. You're going to get a dog fight, but 21.5, I hate to say that I'm going to take Cincinnati in the points because you guys invited me on to the show.
No, you can say it, buddy.
I don't want to lay it on you, but I mean, after seeing what Notre Dame was able to do, the highest point spread and most points scored at Notre Dame Stadium against South Florida, you guys just have a lot of question marks and obviously, first year head coach, a lot of changes going on over there as well. And the uncertainty and the unknown of certain players. I think you mentioned today that some players will be held out of the game Saturday.
Right.
I don't know if that list has come out or anyone is leaked to exactly that'll be. I think that unknown added in as well kind of just really just throws just somewhat of an unknown into the whole entire thing. And I think going into a bye week after the game against you guys, Cincinnati is going to really want to make a huge statement, especially on the national scene, to be able to have people still talking about them as they go in. So I'm going to say you guys score some points. I don't think we're going to blank you like the Irish did, because I think it'll be something along the lines of a 34 to 10. Something along those lines where, a 24-point victory and 21.5, Bearcats cover the spread.
34-10 for some reason sounds better than they'll beat you by 21 points. It does. It sounds a little bit better for some reason. But anyway, my friend, we appreciate having you on. Anytime you're available, we love to have you on. We just want to thank you so much for coming on to Bullseye tonight.
I think I lost you. I can't hear what you're saying over there. I'm not sure.
All right, we're going to say goodbye.
I think you're muted.
Am I muted?
All right. Best of luck to you guys. Thank you for having me on.
All right, thank you. Bradley, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, Larry. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I didn't mute anything. Okay, so we got to hear from Brent Young, and we're going to real quickly, sometimes we go a little bit over the hour that we do on this show, which is fine. But me and Bradley, after our commercial break, we're going to come back. We're going to announce who we're going to have on the show next week. We're going to open it up for about 5 minutes. If anybody wants to come on, there'll be a link to join. And we're going to wrap it up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a quick minute break for our stations to identify themselves. And we'll be back right after this.
Welcome to Rent King Sales and Lease Purchase. Rent King has quickly grown to become Florida's most popular choice for new furniture, appliances, computers, game systems, and consumer electronics. Our locally owned and operated business offers a selection of more than 10,000 name brand products through our flexible lease ownership plan. There's never a credit check at Rent King. You get instant approval, free same-day delivery, free product repairs, and you can purchase your leased products at any time using our exclusive Try It and Buy It 90 days same as cash plan, or our king size early purchase discount. You'll always receive the highest level of service, the largest selection of brand name products, and the guaranteed lowest prices in town at Rent King Sales and Lease Purchase.
All right, we are back with you. We want to thank our sponsor, Rent King, for having us, being our sponsor tonight. Reminder, they are having a Freaky Fall sale coming up Thursday. That's this Thursday already, October 1st through Saturday, October 3rd, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. 609 West Brandon, Florida, West Brandon Boulevard in Brandon, Florida. Free deals, free snacks, refreshments, free prizes, and once again, a chance to get your very own and enter to win a 65-inch 4K smart TV. That's Rent King, 609 West Brandon Boulevard in Brandon. And I know we'd like to thank them very, very much for being a sponsor tonight. We just went ahead. We put up a link. So in the next 5 minutes, as we wrap up the show, if you want to come on, you want to ask Bradley a question, what I'm going to do is I think everybody knows our name by now, Bradley, so that we're not talking into our face here. We'll go ahead and take our names off the board here. But go ahead and join us. We're going to leave that up for a couple of seconds. If you want to get on, ask Bradley or myself any questions in relations to the USF Bills and the game coming up. So, Bradley, you got to listen to Brent. Very confident man, very confident in this team, and he should be. Very, very good team. But something's telling me, and I've been wrong before. I'm not one to say I'm always right, but I just have a feeling that USF is going to come in this game, try to establish the run, and then use Cade Fortin to come in and use the Russian attack to open up the passing game. And I could be wrong, but it just feels like that could be a very successful game plan.
No, Larry, I couldn't agree with you more. And like you said, Brent, he has all the right in the world to be confident. They're 2-0, and they're a good football team. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, they were one of the 3 teams that were favored to win the conference. Obviously, the question I asked him is, what team did they mark the schedule down? Obviously, it's UCF. They lost to Memphis twice, 2 weeks in a row last year. So those 2 teams definitely. And I have to say, anything can happen on a Saturday. He said 34-10. I don't think it's going to be that lopsided. It may be a little bit closer than that. And you never know if the Bulls can get a couple turnovers. Again, last year's game was decided by a field goal, so who knows what's going to happen this year. I think it's going to be a lot closer than 34-10.
Now, let me ask you this, Bradley, for all the fans that are listening. You mentioned it quite a few times. Brent mentioned it a couple of times. I mentioned it. Last year was a game where USF basically controlled that whole game except for the score at the end. I mean, do you think Coach will go back and use that game? Because remember, USF was not an unbelievable team last year, but they held their own versus Cincinnati here. Will he use that game as a motivation for this team, saying, look, we have a better team than we did last year, and look what we did last year?
Yeah, I think so, Larry. Like I said, I think they can use a similar game plan. And Brent mentioned that too, that, we controlled the line of scrimmage. We ran the ball. If we can do that, I think we have a better running game this year than we did a year ago. He did bring up a very good point that I had forgotten. We missed a lot of field goals in that game against Cincinnati. Had we made some of them, it wouldn't even have been that close. We missed a lot of field goals. And, again, them getting that field goal at the end, driving down and getting in field goal range, and, again, the game-winning field goal, it is what it is. But, yeah, I think if we could control the line of scrimmage again and run the ball with Joyner and Ford, and we can get a turnover or a sack or just something on special teams that goes our way, we have a shot.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, this is a team, when you get those opportunities, like you said, that we missed last year, when you're given opportunities to put points on the board, you have to come through. You can't leave points on the field, not with this team, not with this coach, because it'll definitely come back to hit you in the butt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like I said earlier in the show, they have to score when they have the ball. You have to score. You can't be punting the ball 3-4 times a game against Cincinnati. It's not going to work. You got to score points when we have the football.
Now, I don't know if you heard, Bradley, or you got to see yet, but my goodness gracious, we wanted to send you away on a terrific vacation, and we know next week is the last show you'll do. Well, excuse me, folks, it's not his last show. Just for 1 week, he deserves a vacation. But I wanted to end it with a double whammy. And what a great, great lineup we have for you next week. Besides my beautiful face and Bradley's beautiful face next week on Bullseye, we have 2 unbelievable guests. For those of you that have been following USF, you'll know these names. One is Santiago Gramatica, the former USF kicker and brother of both Bill and Martin Gramatica, who played in the NFL. And then we're going to have, I believe, former wide receiver Elgin Hicks, unbelievable player for the Bulls as well. So we're going to be packed full with interviews, one after the other. I know Bradley loves it when these guys, former players, come on. It's just so much fun. And, a lot of these guys, as Bradley will tell you, and they should, they take pride in the school that they used to play for. They really, really do, and it's fun to have them on. They love being on. They enjoy talking about, some of them make it to the NFL, some of them don't, but it's still an unbelievable time. Hopefully you get pumped up about USF. I said this once, and I said it before, okay? This is UFF's home city, Tampa Bay, Florida. We got the Lightning that won it. We're so very happy. We feel very comfortable with our other 2 professional teams. We would love nothing more than to say in the next couple of years, wow, look at the USF football team. I don't think they'll be a great – I know for Bradley especially, who's been even following them longer than me and covering them through the media, we're all part of this success. And for those of you, I understand there's Gator fans. We used to root for the Gators, and there's people out there that root for FSU. There's no reason why you cannot live in Tampa and be a USF fan. USF deserves that. These kids are close to us, and we owe them the right. I thank my buddies every day at WDAE, the great John Momola and Pat Donovan and Aaron Jacobson, of course, Ronnie and T-Crest. I mean, for getting hold of USF and to trying to make them as big as they could by signing that contract. USF needed that. I couldn't believe that I'm sitting here watching no major network in Florida, presenting our school or supporting our school. So thank you very much, WDAE, for that. You're trying to get them back. Although I would love to see more coverage with them. I think we should be talking more about USF than Florida or than FSU or that minor league team in Miami, whatever they're called. I think the Hurricanes. But, I know, or UCF. Okay, we are USF. We are, Mike Kelly says it. Jeff Scott constantly says horns up. We got to have horns up. You know what? We're going to take our bumps. We're going to take our bruises. But in the end, we're going to be a better team for it. And I'm telling you guys, this coach we have, Jeff Scott, who came over from Clemson, knows how to win. You don't win just by snapping your fingers. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. It takes a little bit of time. He has to get, it's just like any of us being in any job or any organization. We come over, we take over, we're in charge. Then we have to get the people that we gel with around us that works the best for us. And that's the stage Jeff's in right now. We are going to be good. I'm not going to sit here and beg you. If you don't want to go along for the ride, that's your choice. But I'm going to be there. I know Bradley's going to be there. And we're going to continue to be the voice of the USF Bulls. And we're going to make this show as big as possible. In the first 2 weeks, I want to thank everybody so very, very much. I mean, we're breaking records with the number of viewers. And if you haven't noticed, and I know Bradley's already noticed tonight, the new hardware that we've gotten to upgrade is just unbelievable because we want to provide you Crew Life, C4L Productions, Bradley and I, we want to provide you with the best possible quality so that you can hear these guys. So next week, once again, Santiago Gramatica, we're going to have Elgin Hicks, and then we just found out we are going to have former running back October 13th. Unfortunately, that will be the week you're on vacation, Bradley. Billy Henderson will be joining us. So, guys, we are full with people that want to come on. Any of you are always welcome. Tell your friends if you're enjoying this show, and I'm getting a lot of responses that people enjoy Bradley and I working together doing this podcast, and I thank you very much because I couldn't thank him enough because he does an excellent job on the show, Bradley does. But, if you're enjoying it this much, go ahead and tell your friends about it. I have the whole class of 2024, group on tonight. So those of you people, that means you got 4 more years there. We're not going away, okay? We're getting older, but that doesn't mean we're going away, okay? Tell your friends about us. It's free. Believe me, there are a lot of people out there. Bradley can tell you, being in the media more than I have been, that charge you for this type of content when you start getting interviews like that. We're not doing that. That's not what we decided to do this for. We decided to do this so that we can provide you with the best USF, and you don't hear us just saying football right now. USF. Basketball season is going to be coming up. Baseball is incredible this team. We love sports. This is a USF channel. And if you look, that's what Bradley and I cater to it. You don't see anything else on it. I have other shows. Bradley has other shows, but we cater this to USF. So please tell your friends, I want to thank everybody so much for joining Bradley and I tonight on Bullseye. And we'll be back same time, same place, same channel next week. Have a good night. And remember, guys, horns up. I think I did it right.